Hi, I'm Holly Shum, and today I'm presenting a class for 4th grade, and the theme of the class is called Being a Geographer. So from the previous lessons, we have learned some basic information about the Texas regions from social studies, and my focus is the writing part of the lesson. However, we'll review some of the concepts that we learned previously. So today our objective for social studies is to describe and explain the location and distribution of various towns and cities in Texas, past and present. And for writing objective, we're focusing on research and gathering sources. Students are expected to locate and explore full range of relevant sources addressing a research question and using a plan to collect information and to compose an expository text that communicate ideas with construction that has central idea and supporting details, and with a concluding sentence at the end. So I have various stages in the lesson, and before I present the lesson itself, I'm going to just talk about the different stages. So the first stage I'm going to do is called building oracy and background knowledge. And the four vocabulary that we're going to focus on for the lesson are mountains and basins. So we'll use TPR to represent the concept as well. So we'll use the simple mountain and basin. So mountain and basin, and the students will do it with me. And then the next one is the Great Plain. So since it's great, we're going to put the Great Plain. The Great Plain. And then the next one is the North Central Plain. Since it's up north, we're going to put our hands up. The North Central Plain. We're going to say it's the North Central Plain. And then the last plain is called the coastal plain. Since it's coastal, we're going to put it with the water. Coastal plain. So those are the four essential vocabulary that we will need for this lesson. And for the next part of the lesson, we're going to build a cultural funds of knowledge, and we are going to play a video that is called The Region of Texas on YouTube. And through this video, we can view like different special.
Both cities grew after railroads were built in Texas. Railroads carried the cattle to markets back east. Today, both Lubbock and Amarillo are home to many different industries, including farming, cattle ranching, gas, oil, healthcare, and tourism. Okay, everyone, back on the bus again.
So this video will help the students build a cultural funds of knowledge as a class. This video introduces the four regions of Texas with visuals and audio, and so I would use that technology to build that, and then we will discuss some of the human activities along the different plains, and what kind of business can be derived because of the geographic factors. The next part of the lesson is called building background knowledge, and that part of the lesson I'll model right now. So class, remember after we learn about the map and review the different regions, we're going to write about a region that you think has a specific human activity relates to it because of its geographic factors. So let's continue and look at the map we have here. So who can tell me the map where does it represent? Well, it kind of says it right there. So it's the Texas map. And before we continue, I want us to remember the 4 regions that we have in Texas. And I'm going to use a blue marker to divide this map into 4 regions, since that's an easier way to remember if we can divide it. Okay, so let's continue. So the first region we're going to talk about is called the Great Plains. So I'm sorry, so we're going to put the name Great Plains. And remember that Great Plain has a flat line that is huge, a flat land that is huge on the north of Texas. So the next line is called the Mountains and Basin region. And the Mountains and Basin region is kind of on the west side of Texas. So we're going to divide this into a part that is on the west of Texas, part of the Panhandle. So this is called the Mountains and Basin region. Remember, boys and girls, mountains are the ones that are up high, and the basins are the ones that are down low. So can everybody say mountains and basins? Mountains and basins. Alright, so that's on the west side of our map. The next region is called the Central Plain. The Central Plain is in the center of Texas. So let me just divide the Great Plain, and we can see the central region, the central plain, or called the North and Central Plain. Remember, North and Central Plain because it's high, but it's also flat. So we call it the North and Central Plains. And then the last plain we want to talk about, which is the most important one we live in, where Houston is called the Coastal Plain. Coastal Plains. So along the before I continue, let's look at the map a little closer, since my computer does not zoom. So this is what the 4 regions that we have identified so far, and we're going to dig a little deeper about the 4 regions and what geographic sites that are popular in those regions. So the first one is called the Mountain and Basin region, and we're going to use green to draw some mountains and basins. Remember, mountains and basins. So along the plain, there are mountains and basins in the region. In fact, all of the Texas mountains and valleys locate in this plain. So remember, mountain and basin regions, and they're on the west side of Texas. So, and guess what? So we have our Big Bend National Park in the same place. So the same region. So I'm gonna locate it. So remember, this is the Mountains and Basin region, and at the bottom of this panhandle is the Big Bend. I'm sorry, let me write it down. Big Bend National Park. And you can guess why is it the Big Bend National Park. It's because it consists mostly the desert. 99% of that area is desert. So not only they have mountains and basins, but also they have deserts in the area. And not to forget, we have the one of the one of the biggest cities in this region is called El Paso. In Spanish, El Paso means the pass, and you can tell this spot, El Paso, is the border city between Texas and New Mexico. The next plain we're going to focus on is called a coastal plain. Remember how to do coastal plain? Remember, it's near the water. So we're going to do coastal plain. Coastal plain. Can you guess where that is? Okay, it's near the coast. It's near the Gulf of Mexico. So actually, this coastal plain, we're going to use blue because it's near water. Coastal plain is one of the regions that is really interesting. So coastal plain is actually 1/3 of the Texas area. It's mostly flat land, and we're going to locate some biggest cities in Texas in this plain. In fact, we live in the city. You know what it's called? Houston. That's right. So let's locate Houston. Houston is one of the cities in coastal region, and I want you to think about why is this a good spot for a city like Houston to develop? This is the part where Houston is, and I'm also going to locate Dallas. Dallas is north of Houston, so if you drive there, you probably will take at least 6 hours non-stop just to go there. Dallas is up north, and then we're also going to locate Austin and San Antonio. So Austin, so I want you to remember it's kind of like a triangle. Austin is kind of in the middle, and then we also have San Antonio. So these are the major cities in the coastal area, and that since this region is so close to water, this region is great for fishing and all kinds of water sports. We're going to put strike mark for this area, the coastal region, the coastal plain. So Houston, San Antonio, uh, Austin, Dallas, they're all major cities in Texas. And we are thriving with our shipping, with fishing, with sporting events, and with ranching and oil and gas industry. So I want you to think about why is this region a good, why is this plain the most developed with human activity? Don't forget, these cities are the places that make the most money in Texas. So I want to show you one of the pictures that um, is Dallas. So remember, this is the city that is in the coastal plain, And I want you to think about why is that a good place to develop such a city. The next plain we're going to focus on is called the Great Plain. If you remember how to do Great Plain, please do it with me. The Great Plain is the plain that is flat and it's huge. So the Great Plain is on the north area of Texas, and this area is slightly higher level. It's actually a higher level of Texas, so it has a higher elevation, but it's still very flat. So this is the place where you have drier area because of the flat and high land. So I'm going to draw some high land looking pieces, so we remember that is the higher level area, and there are some cities here as well. One is called Amarillo, and it's kind of right along the Red River, and that's called Amarillo. And then right underneath it on the south, they have a city called Lubbock. And this city is in the Great Plains as well. These cities are famous for farming, cattle ranching, oil and gas, healthcare, and tourism as well. So before we continue, let's zoom into the map a little bit. So, and also, we will finish with the last plain, and the last plain is called the North Central Plain. In the North Central Plain, it has a warmer summer and cooler winter, and it's mostly rural. That means it's not a lot of development, a lot of human development over there yet, but they do have rolling hills region. So the North Central Plain, remember it's up high, kind of north central plain. It has more something called rolling hills. That means the elevation it's a bit more hilly. So we're going to draw a little bit of hill in this plain because they do have some hills in this plain, and they're famous for having cowboys and cowgirls. They do have some horn toll, and they also have the city called Fort Worth, and several military bases there. Okay, so that was the lesson for building. Actually, that's part of the lesson that's building background knowledge. And then the next part of the lesson, we're going to do reading comprehension. In the reading comprehension, we'll use the Studies Weekly resource to engage students in reading. So as you can see here, I'm going to pull it up. So we're going to use this resource, Landforms of Texas, and students will identify different types of there are 13 different types of landforms in Texas. Then students can use the things that we talked about and the definitions on the reading to identify and label different areas that they see in this picture. Along with that, we're going to read about how different changes of land bring changes for people. So how human activities are depending on nature and geography, specifically in Texas. After we read this together, students will break into groups of 4. In fact, break into groups of 3, and they will focus on a smaller section of text and read about how land affects life and how people, businesses and industry are developed, and how humans can use technology and ways to change the environment and overcome the limitations because of the natural disasters. So after the reading part of the lesson, we will jump right into writing. And before we start writing, we're gonna remind ourselves that the 4 plains in Texas, and that is mountains and basins plain, the coastal plain, the Great Plain, and the North and Central Plain. Remember that we're using those plains to explain, well, we're picking one region in Texas and describe how human activity have changed according to nature. For example, where do people build cities? Do they build cities mostly in the North and Central Plain, or do they build in the coastal plain? I want you to pick a plain and describe how humans have developed because of the geographic location and the weather and the landforms of the region. So before students get to write about the plane that they chose and how the human activity has been changed, I'm going to show them the hamburger graphic organizer that helped them organize their writing. So this is the hamburger organizer, and we're going to use this to remind ourselves that our writing has to have a topic sentence that is stating the region that you pick and what are some general human activities that you have searched. And we're going to use each supporting detail to support one thing that you have observed human has changed because of the geographic location or a business that have bloomed. And then each paragraph you're going to have one thing that you observe, and then the concluding sentences to wrap up what you have stated in the beginning, which is the region and a general human activity that that had been affected because of that. So that will be the writing lesson of this lesson, and between the last lesson that we developed with geographic location of Mexico and this writing piece with Texas, we're going to choose one that the students have written, and we're going to revise and edit. But today our bridging activity, the cross-linguistic connection, is going to be the revising strategies for writing. So we're gonna go to this part of the lesson now. So boys and girls, thank you for writing the composition that you have just done about the Texas region and how human activity have changed according to the geographic location and the weather and nature. So I want you to take your piece of writing and come to this area, and we're going to revise our writing. So by revising, we're making it better by changing it. But there is something that we need to remember. And since we did have a writing in Spanish and a writing in English, we're going to use that as our cross-linguistic connection. So to revise the visab is to make it better. So we're going to use red for Spanish and blue for English. So let's think about arms. Oops, this way. So can everybody show me your arm? Your arms. So remember, we need our arms to make things better. So this is an acronyms in English and in Spanish. Okay, so let's start with A. So A is agrega, and agrega means to add. Agrega. So because of that, we're going to put the at sign. You can add things to your writing according to maybe you think you should give more details to explain what is the human activity and what is the reason that human have chosen that place to be a city. So based on your research, can you give more evidence, add more details? So in English, that would be to add more details. So it will be add sentences and words. You can add any necessary sentences and words. You can add any sentences and words, and in Spanish is agrega palabras y oraciones, sí. O palabras, agrega palabras. Lo mismo de inglés, palabras, oraciones, cualquier importante palabras y oraciones. Entonces, agrega, we're going to add important details to our writing so the reader can get a deeper understanding of what you're trying to say. Then the next one for arm, oh, so we can see the A, that is the same beginning letter with add. And then the next one is in our arm, it's R, and that is, can you think about it? If I can add, can I take away something? Maybe they're just a little off topic. So maybe we can subtract or we can remueve las palabras no necesitamos. Or remueve. Can you guess the English word? That will be to remove. That's right. To remove. To remove words that are unneeded or sentences. Unneeded. So unneeded words or sentences. And in Spanish, it's also start with the R. Remueve palabras o ideas no necesarias. Okay? No necesarias palabras y oraciones. Remueve palabras o ideas no necesarias. No necesaria. Lo mismo de letra. Primero letra R, E. So can you guess the next letter and what it represents in arms? We have agrega to add, remueve to subtract or to remove unneeded words or sentences, and the M, la M means to move, mueve, to move paragraphs. Maybe they should go in the beginning of the composition because it tells more about general idea. So the reader, maybe that's a better organization. It just sounds better. So we're going to use the symbol like we're moving paragraphs. I'm going to use the arrow means like change, move. So in Spanish it's mueve. So mueve. We're going to move some of the words that we think maybe we can change the position because it just makes more sense in that way. In English we're going to use blue, okay? So move. We're going to move some of the words, some paragraphs around, and just to make a better organization of the composition. So to move is we can move a sentence or a word placement that will give the reader a little more clear sense of what you're trying to say because it's from general to specific. So mueve las palabras y oraciones y la letra es lo mismo, M, en inglés y en español. Okay, so and then we're moving on to the last letter of the acronym ARM. Okay, so we're going to the S. So la S representa sustituir. Sustituir. Let me spell substituir. In English, it means to. Can anyone think of the word? What is the word in English? Sustituir. En inglés se llama substitute. 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 To substitute is to use a different word or different sentence to replace what you have written in the first place. So for that, we're going to make a symbol that means to get rid of the word and use a different word to say the same thing, because it makes it more clear. And because of that, we're going to make a cross. In fact, we're going to underline the word that we want to substitute, and we're going to make a cross over that word, and we're going to write the words that we want on top of that. So to substitute a word is to replace it with a word that is more clear or is more accurate in describing what we're trying to say. So coming back to the S substitute, substituer, we're going to zoom in a little bit to this anchor chart and to see our bridge cross-linguistic connection with arms. Remember our arms to improve our writing using the adding, agrega, removing, remueve, unneeded words or sentences, mueve palabras y oraciones por mejorar, escribir. And then the last one, arms substitute, is to change words or sentences for better writing. Sustituir, cambiar palabras, oraciones por algo mejor. Alright, so that is our lesson for our biliteracy unit framework for being a geographer. So we'll continue this lesson with different subjects for the next lesson. So after the bridge, the cross-linguistic connection, students will go ahead and revise their writing based on the ARMS acronym. And then afterwards, that is going to be a grade for the week of writing. So that concludes all the stages of this lesson. And thank you for watching.